Good job.
I think that happened like one of my very first, like the first time that you absolutely murder, and then you have the next show, you're like, I'm gonna do that exactly again. And then that's when you eat actual shit and you bomb your ass off, and it's like, oh, this is a totally different thing. And so I had to just start viewing each, but that's a lesson that you have to learn by just doing it,
Well,
so
and I also think with Chelsea's shows, it's more of an inside joke because she gives everybody nicknames.
Yeah.
So it's just like it becomes an inside joke to those audience members amongst friends. Like they're never gonna forget that nickname that she gave them.
yeah, that's happened more often than I thought. I thought giving nicknames would just be a fun kitschy thing.
No.
And I've had people come up to me years later, hey, I'm green sweater, I'm like, I'm so sorry, I don't remember it at all, but they remember that moment forever, so yeah.
Yeah, I do love when you do that, when you go around a room and sort of bring everybody into the show. And I think that's what people love when you're doing crowd work. You're bringing them into the show, especially if you're not insulting them like you're such an idiot. If you're like, having fun,
Everybody's a piece of shit at Chelsea's show. It's just a matter of who's lucky piece
Can
of
I
shit.
just share my favorite Chelsea moment from the Comedy Edge when you were on my show? There was this really beautiful Black woman and this skinny white guy. They were together and like alone at a table, and you looked at her and you said, ma'am, miss, you are a beautiful, strong woman, and sir, like you're the kind of woman that needs like a strong man, which surprises me because, sir, you are not that.
Yeah,
I believe that.
That sounds about right. That sounds about right.
I'll never forget that.
That sounds like a fire I would try and put out, which is just, that's the dynamic between me and Chelsea when we're on stage together. It's just her just being an arsonist and me coming back around and being like, you're not a whore. I'm sure you're a very nice lady. Your mom doesn't think you're a whore. Your aunt probably does, but who cares? But nobody talks to your aunt anyway. So yeah, it's just me kind of coming around and being like, oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, shit. What did she say? Don't call him that. Like, how many dick bags are here?
It was just so true that it was just so like what everyone was thinking. So it was hilarious and nobody got mad, it was great.
And I think that's the big thing. No one gets mad because they're just having fun, Let's talk a little bit about coaching. I know that, you both coach people and tell me a little bit about that. Holly, like what does that entail? What are you, how do you do that? Well, what's that? Who dis? What's that?
What?
How do you do that? How do you do that?
What is this coaching stuff?
Coaching
like a coach. I'm there, wiping the sweat off. Yeah, I mean, for me, like I started, in the realm of like creative blocks and helping people with their fears, and the inner mindset has always been really my go-to, because I love performers, because we wear our art on our bodies. Like we are the art, right? Like, can you think of anything harder than putting yourself in the world and saying like, this is my art, I hope it doesn't suck, right? So like I've always been really focused in on the mindset and the fears, and that's where the hypnotherapy came in, is really helping people get the right mindset and helping them sort of see things, reflecting back to them what their story is, right? So that they can change it. And then little by little, I've started adding other things, like I'm doing a branding boot camp right now, which is super fun. And we're, diving into people's artistic voice. And then we're going to do a photo shoot tomorrow. I'm a girl that loves a photo shoot. I realize it's like a thing with me. And then we're going to help them with their websites and the social media and doing all of that fun, creative stuff coming out of their artistic voice. But, for me, it's always been like, so I nowadays I can tie what I do to money. I could say like, I can help you probably make a lot more money. But really, like, for me, it's like, how do we sustain ourselves as artists become, stronger so that we can really go out consistently in the world and go where we want to go and do what we want to do.
Wow. And you're also coaching actors, like kind of the realm.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a SAG-AFTRA member, so I go there and I do talks at SAG-AFTRA, which is a Screen Actors Guild. And then, so I meet a lot of my clients that way, and they're, a lot of them are just working actors, series regulars, or, like no household names yet. But, they're in the industry. And, so with them, it's really about, a lot of times it's the audition, because they're auditioning all the time. And it's really nerve-wracking to be in that space all the time. And so helping them sort of get their mindset so that when they go in there, they can really crush it. They can give a good performance. You can have all the acting experience in the world, but if you can't stand in front of a jury trial, and do your thing, then it's really hard to get work. Yeah.
Wow, you're doing so many different aspects of coaching. I just find it very interesting. And you work with a group, or you work by yourself, or?
Yeah, I have a company, Performers and Creators Lab. It's just kind of my umbrella for all the different things that I love to do. I go to what's interesting. I work with actors and now some comedians as well, but like I don't know enough about comedy. Like I'll own the fact that like I'm holding a writing workshop for comics they like come and get prompts and write, right? But I am not a expert joke teller like Myles or Heather. Like I'm not going to say I can help you make that funny, because I'm still figuring that out. I don't have the science, I don't have that down. So that's not going to be what I'm going to help somebody with, like it'd be more like the inner mindset and like branding, that kind of thing. Getting over past traumas, slowing down on the cocaine. I've helped a few comics do that. That kind of stuff.
Slowing down on the cocaine is one of your,
Good tip. That's good advice.
Habits.
Good.
It's
good.
helping people with habits.
Myles, tell me, what do you do? Like, what, somebody comes to you, they're like, okay, let's do this. We set up a time. I want to know what that session looks like. I want to know what that process.
Well, Heather and I, just like any major thing that I end up pulling the trigger on in my life, starts with Heather doing an abundance of research and being like, this is what you need to do. And I'm like, okay. And so she did a lot of research, and she found a life coaching company that really fit just kind of our philosophy of life and how we operate. So it's called IWA, Integrational Wellness Academy. And so we both got IWA certified through that life coaching company. And that focuses on a lot of what, like Holly was saying, things that focus kind of on like the mental aspect of life, the emotional, the physical, and the spiritual. So just, it's kind of like an umbrella and all encompassing, like, let's look at your whole life. Because I think with life coaching and entertainment, the focus that we try and put it on is, we want to make sure that you're setting smart goals and setting action plans to accomplish those goals in the best way possible. But we also want to make sure that you're not sacrificing every healthy relationship you have in your life on the altar of success in the entertainment industry, because that's just the running thing. If you're an entertainer, like how many entertainers do we know who are on their third or fourth or fifth marriage, and it just, they don't see their kids a lot, or that relationship is kind of hard pressed. There might be issues with your friends. There's a lot of things that kind of get thrown under the bus and put by the wayside in the name of being a successful entertainer. I know this from experience, because Heather and I had a rough patch, because I was working as a stand-up comedian at least 45 weeks out of the year. For those of you who don't look at calendars, there's only 52 weeks in a year, y'all. That's too much of the year. So we really started to notice that our relationship was suffering because we weren't around each other ever. And I'm like, is this what we really want to do? Is this really like what's making me happy? And then the pandemic hit and everything paused, and we were like, I kind of like you like as a person. Like I love you, but I also like you, and that's important too. And so we sat down and we were like, well, what does it look like if our schedules are more accommodating to be able to do what we want to do with our careers, but also be around each other? This is what that schedule looks like. So, really, that's kind of the mold and model that we're trying to follow with the coaching. How are you able to set smart goals and get the action plan in order to where you can start going after the goal that you want to accomplish in the path of least resistance, but also, hey, how is your dating life going? Like, have you scheduled a date this week with your girlfriend that isn't comedy related? Going to a show with you is not, has not, and will never be considered a date. That is you bringing your spouse to work, much like you do with children. When when you're a parent and you bring your kid to work, you're doing that, which is super not boner inducing. So take some time to schedule a date that isn't to do with your entertainment life. So that way you're actually showing that consideration and showing that this relationship is important to me. Because if we can make sure that the balance is there, well, now the art might be better. We can have more relatable material where it's like, yeah, no, I connect with her because she's really doing everything she can for her family and I'm doing the same. And these are the funny things that I could connect with. So being able to have that balance is very, very important. But also, like Holly said, working on your trauma. There's so much pain that comes from good art. But I feel like we get in this formulaic rut where, as an artist, we think that the pain defines the art, and that if you take away that pain or heal that trauma, the art will suffer. I won't be as funny. I won't be able to connect as much. I'll lose my edge. I've had these conversations with many comics and many entertainers who believe that part of their trauma, the scars that they have from their whole life, are what make them who they are as an entertainer. And me and Holly are here to say, yes, but what if your assumptions on your future aren't true into that, guys? What if healing is going to elevate your art to a level that you never knew you could? What happens if being a well-rounded person makes you that much of a more powerful artist? And then from that, maybe now people who are fans of you go, oh man, well, if he could get his shit together, maybe I should try. Like, I mean, so yeah, being able to work through that process and see that it's not necessarily a thing that you have to be broken your whole life. We don't have to be Sid's toys. I can show you a million paths to Andy's room. We can get there together with Woody and Buzz. So yeah, man, there's too many comics and entertainers who feel like broken toys, and it's like, we could fix ourselves and we could still be fine. It doesn't have to define you. So yeah, that's really what the coaching ends up entail. And then from there, I also do like the writing workshops, and the writing is good because and me and Chelsea do this all the time with each other. We enjoy the writing process. We enjoy giving tags. We enjoy showing people like, hey, this is how you do this. This is the formula for this type of joke. These are the type of things that are funnier, and just really laying out all the tools. And I try and bring Heather in, especially when I'm working with women comedians, just so that way there is a women's lens, because I could sit here and mansplain your jokes to you till I'm blue in the face. But unless a woman who knows her shit can sign off on it, you might not have that confidence in what I'm saying. And also there's times where I've been like, oh, maybe do this. And she's like, yeah, but think of it from the perspective of a woman. If you do this, then that could be perceived as this. And it's like, you're right. I had no idea. That makes sense. And now we could go down that avenue because we have that honest opinion from a woman's input. So we try and do whatever we can to make sure that everybody's getting the most out of the coaching as humanly possible.
Very cool. I love that you were able to throw Toy Story analogy in there. That meant a lot to me, actually. It makes me want to tell you a story about Toy Story, but I won't, because even though it's my podcast, I'm not going to do that. Okay, I'll just tell it.
I mean, now you kind of have to.
No, me and my two Grimes and me and my best friend, we all went to see Toy Story at like 10 o'clock at night on a weeknight, because we were like, no kids, yay, right? So we go in, it's just us three in the whole theater. We're like, this is dope. Right before the movie starts, these three cholos walk in, sit behind us, all one seat away from each other, and lights go down, they pop open beers, we're all watching the show, everything's cool, copacetic. Right in the middle of the movie, this is what I hear. Oh, run, Woody, run. Oh shit, man, I don't think he's gonna make it. Like the cool. I turn around, I'm like, right? Fuck, man. And like, it was the coolest bonding moment we've ever, us and those three cholos. It was dope. But anyway.
I love that Cholos went to go see Toy Story, because that was an honest conversation in the car on the way to the theater. It's like, what do you want to see, man? Like, I don't know. I kind of wanted to see Toy Story 3. Holmes, me too.
All fucking day, man. Let's do it. Yeah, absolutely. And then we all had a bonding moment. It was like 3 old goths and 3 cholos. It was like a joke. They walk into a room, and then it was just hilarious. Anyway, yes, I love that you were able to put a Toy Story in that. I love that.
I do what I can.
So when you're coaching, it sounds like you're coaching on different levels. You're coaching on a psychological level. You're coaching on a on a where do you want to go level. Let's see how we can get you there. And then you're coaching on a different level, which is also like, let's also be healthy about your choices. Let me help you out with that. Now, is that about them telling you what's going on and then you're kind of giving them feedback, or how does that all happen? Like,
so the way do
they give you a dossier and then you read it and go, no, like,
well, we do the initial coaching session is always an intake. So we have a proper form that's like a questionnaire that we'll go through and like ask like over Zoom, person to person during a session, just because some of the questions can be a little triggering to some people. So it's better to be there with them to kind of work through that question, as opposed to just like being like, hey, fill out this form and deal with your shit when it comes up. So we do an intake, and the intake is basically just kind of an overview. Like, it's just a lot of questions to kind of let us know, where are you at in your life? What are some things that you might not have worked through in the past? Are there some things that are triggering, that are kind of holding you back? So it just kind of gives us the big picture of like where you're at with life. So that way going forward, we're like, okay, maybe we can coach them this way just because they've been through these type of things and they've got kind of some resentments towards some family stuff here. So maybe we can kind of like focus on doing this first, and then like breadcrumb our way into healing this stuff, or like trying to point them in the right way direction to like therapy or something. So it's like, hey, you should probably unpack this with the professional, as opposed to just like venting to us about it. So the intake really lets us know where you're at, where we go from here. And in the intake, one of the questions is just like, what are your major goals, and what do you want to accomplish? What do you expect to accomplish being in the entertainment industry? What does success look like for you? What is your definition of success? Because everybody's definition of success is going to be different. Yours from mine, from everybody else's. There's people who could look at us and be like, oh yeah, you guys have done a lot. And then there's people who are like, you're a fraud, you haven't done shit. So everybody's opinion is going to be very different. So being able to know where people stand lets you know, all right, this is where we go from here. This is how we're going to get you from A to B to Z. And then, all right, what do you want to do? Well, if you want to do that, this is how you do that. So I had a client who got approached by a room that it was like a country club. They want to do a comedy show. And she's like, I don't know how to run a room. And I'm like, well, if you want to, this is how. And I broke down like nightly rates, why certain nights of the week are more expensive to run shows than others, how you can tag it up, how to have a conversation about including a hotel or getting a sponsorship. So that way a hotel can just do it on the house for you for that room. If you want to run it as a monthly, you do it this way. If you want to do bi-monthly, you do it this way. Weekly, you want to do it this way. So I just gave her everything. And so that's where it's just like, oh, I don't even know what I'm doing here. Oh, well then, if you want to do that, this is how you do that. Do you want to do that? All right. Step 1, do this. So yeah, from there, once you decide that's the avenue you want to go down, we just go, all right, well, you're going to need all of this if you want to do that.
Wow. And Holly, is that kind of how you get started with them too? You do like a questionnaire kind of thing? And
yeah, I mean, for sure, my practice is very client oriented. I think of it as Like what's going on for them? Why are they there? What's their major pain? Because usually what I find is that people, we come into this life with a desire to be performers, right? And you either start moving towards it or you don't. And the farther you keep moving away from it, the bigger the pain becomes, right? And at certain points, sometimes we get so far and then it's not going the way we want, or we get kind of something major happens in our life and we get sidetracked, and then we get sad and we get off the course again. So it's like, throughout life, we're always kind of making our way towards what we desire. But for me, it's really like, does this like, how big is their desire and where is the pain? Like, where are they blocked? Right. And then really finding out, at that point, yeah, it's a conversation, always like seeing where are they blocked, what do they want instead, what have they already tried. And then it's like, if I feel like at that point, oh, okay, like I could totally help you, like this is definitely in my wheelhouse, then I'll say, okay, well, this is how I could work with you, this is how I could help you. Yeah, it's client oriented, so it really varies. Like I helped a 70-year-old woman once who had a phobia of heights, and she wasn't directly a performing artist, but she had a phobia of heights and she couldn't go on retirement and vacation with her husband. And just like after 3 months of doing hypnotherapy, she was able to like get past that block at 70. Like she had this for 50 years. And then I've also, so that's like one thing over here, and then I've also helped, like I helped this young, this is right when I first started coaching. She was a dancer, and all of a sudden with this band, and the band like blew up overnight, and they started getting all these trolls and critics and comments. She started, like, her YouTube's channel went from like, I don't know, like 500 views to like 90,000 views very quickly. And so then when that happens, you also get a lot of trolls, a lot of, negative attention. And she got really frozen. Like she just shut down. All the friends she had were all jealous. She didn't have them anymore. She was just in this really isolated place. And just after working with her for a month, she was able to like get her alignment back, get her confidence back, go back on the road. Like she's doing great. She just booked another Coachella tour. So like she's doing well. So it really is like, it's client oriented, which I'm sure Myles would probably say. And Heather, that's, it's always true. It's like, what's your goal? What's your success? What's that look like? Yeah.
And don't feed the trolls. If you're an entertainer, don't feed the trolls. Don't take the comments personally. I always tell people, my rule of thumb is you're not allowed to steal any of my joy if I cannot prove that you were wearing pants. Oh. So that's my, yeah. If I can't prove you're wearing pants, your opinion cannot hurt me in the slightest. So yeah, those type of things. That's something that people don't know. Like Holly probably knows, like, people, they get this success, and like you said, all of a sudden now the eyes are on you, and here come the trolls. And the more energy you give to them, they just keep on coming back, especially if they see that you're willing to be combative and get down in the mud with them in the comments. So you just got to let it go. You can't feed the trolls. So yeah, that's definitely a thing that comes up in the entertainment world when you're coaching. Also, something that comes up a lot with entertainers is post-accomplishment depression. That's the thing. That's a thing that is very real across every branch and every corner of entertainment, no matter if you're an actor or a dancer or a comedian. Post-accomplishment depression, which is essentially you've set a goal, you've romanticized about that goal for years, sometimes decades. Like people just go, I got to do this. 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 I'll be happy when I do this. I'll be happy when I do this. And you put so much on the goal that finally when it happens, it comes and goes, and then you don't know what to do with yourself. And Entertainers get depressed. I experienced it after I filmed my Dry Bar special. I romanticized doing a special that was going to be widely seen by people for so much of my life since I was a kid, that when it happened, the night came and went. The night was amazing, but then the next day happened, and I was like, oh no, where did that feeling go? And I couldn't find it. And I was very depressed for a while. So yeah, being able to find healthy ways to cope and work through that as an entertainer, very important. But unfortunately, a lot of entertainers don't even know that's coming.
Wow.
Yeah, to piggyback on what Myles is saying and what Holly actually said as well is, like, I grew up in theater, and I'm also, you know, in stand up, which is very, very similar. You know, like with the way that Holly's talking about auditioning, you have to audition. You'll go through 9,000 just to have 3 callbacks. You know, just the same as you'll bomb your ass off 9,000 times to have 3 great sets. So they're very, very syncopated, you know, situations. But I feel like this term success is a triggering word for some entertainers, because in every realm, you're in this world of entertainment, there is a level of never being satiated. You'll never get to the end point. You're constantly looking for the next gig, the next booking, the next audition, the next stage. There's never an end goal. I feel like if you're really in this entertainment world, it's ongoing. It's forever searching, going, moving, next. A friend of mine was in the original cast of Mean Girls on Broadway, and they got shut down with the pandemic. He was a stand-up comic. He hit Broadway. He was so excited. And one of the only thoughts he had was, what's after this? And this is while he's currently on a Broadway stage. And it's like, but that's the life of a performer. So the word success, I really feel like should be in quotes, because it's like, what is success for an actual performer? Because you can reach certain goals, sure. But to me, you're never fully done. You know what I mean?
No.
Always
Yeah,
a
I
work in
think
progress.
success is like learning to surf the waves,
Right.
right? Like enjoying where you are at any time and knowing that you're always going to want more.
Right. Right.
Like
Yeah.
that reminds me of, like, you know, the Princess Bride, you know, Inigo Montoya, and he finally kills the guy, and it's like, now that I've spent my whole life trying to do that, I don't know what I'm going to do next, you know?
Right,
It's
right.
just like,
Yeah.
and it's got to be the way it is, you know? That was your Dry Bar, you know? That's
Mhm.
somebody else's Netflix special. They're like,
Mhm.
okay, what do I do? Another Netflix special? Like, what do I?
Or
what
they
do
wait a
I-
book, right? I think the
what do
author
I-
of
what am
the
I
author of
doing
Eat,
now?
Pray, Love went through the same thing. You know, she
Yeah.
wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and then she was like, "Fuck, no,
Yeah.
what do I do?" And so yeah, that happens.
I mean, I remember a time when I was first starting comedy, and I finally got to do Cobb's, and I was like, oh, I made it. Like, it was just because it was a real comedy club, you know? And then I finally got to do Punchline San Francisco, and I was like, oh my God, you know? And it was like, it's funny because now I realize that those little goals that I had were so small compared to just keep going. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's funny. Like, it's just funny how you can hit a goal and then you're like, that was awesome. Now I want more. I want more goal. I want more of this. I want more of that. And I think that, and I've only been doing comedy for like 6 years. So it's not like I've been doing it for the rest of my whole life or anything, but.
Well, that's in any industry, because even in my industry, working with professional fighters, when I thought I made it, I was like, oh, this sucks. I don't like this at all. Guys are awful. I don't want to work with them. But so once I thought I made it, I was like, oh yeah, this is great. No, it's not. And I actually want to do something else. So
Yeah.
Yeah, go figure. Guys who get hit in the head a lot, not the most reliable clients.
Yeah, go figure. Sometimes guys in general. I'm in retail, and I don't know if you've ever know about men that sell shoes. Does anybody know about this?
Oh dear God! I mean, I've watched enough Married with Children to know what the process
It's
is
like
like.
a frat house. It's disgusting. Yeah, they're disgusting people.
Yeah.
So the coaching thing, the bombing thing, we talked about that a little bit. What are your, like, I'm curious about how you got into this. Why did you think this was a good idea? Why did you think this was something that you know, a way you wanted to go. Like Myles, you've been, you know, doing comedy forever. And then, you know, Holly, you've been in the entertainment world forever. What made you think like, I really want to help people? Like, what was your moment where the light bulb went on and you said, I really want to help people out? Did you help somebody accidentally and then go, that was awesome? Or, you know, what?
Well,
You know?
for me, it was that dealing with that post accomplishment depression and being like, okay, well, I had this endeavor that seemed on the surface like something I really wanted, but at its core, pretty selfish. Like, who's benefiting from this special? Really, me. And that's it. And it's all about me and the elevation and my status and what's going to happen and the work I'm going to get because of it and what this means for me in my career and accomplishing that. And so dealing with that and experiencing that and being like, okay, well, I had this thing that turns out seemed to be a little on the selfish side, and that wasn't fulfilling. What happens if I just focus on helping people, like other people? Because that's something I've always enjoyed doing. When a comic bombs, it drives me up the fucking wall when other comics go, oh, that was good. I'm like, how? No, absolutely not. Let's go talk. And I'll take them outside and I'll be like, is that what you wanted to happen? And they always go, no. I'm like, okay, why do you think that happened? And then we'll get through their thought process. And I'm like, okay, here's what I saw. And maybe we can kind of unpack this together. And I'll try and do anything I can to try and help them. And if they need advice, or I've been doing writing sessions for a while with certain comics, and I really enjoy the feeling I get for helping them reach their goals, the feeling I get for helping them write that new joke. They're like, I've been staring at this joke for years and I couldn't get it to work, but now you lit a fire that sent me down a path that now I'm in love with this bit. That feels better to me than, oh, I did this thing for me. So now is a point to just kind of stop. Let me put everything down that I'm doing for me and let me just refocus all of my energy to helping. Hey, I did it, guys. So let me help you do it. I can totally do everything I can to help you with this. And then also be there on the other side to help you process if it doesn't quite feel the way you thought it was going to feel, and to tell you that that's okay. And you don't have to beat yourself up about that feeling. So being able to do that for other people, to me, has been more fulfilling than doing things for myself. And so that's how I kind of pivoted to, now this is where I need to put my energy. And it's been very rewarding.
And with that, we have a mental health podcast. And so we've been like heavily in the mental health scene. With me, like I have bipolar. So like we've always been constantly just on the search of like what's going to help people with their mental health. And if you look at like statistics of anybody in the entertainment industry, and like you said, it comes from trauma, there's a lot of mental health issues in the entertainment industry. So like also just us doing that. And in the podcast, we cover different things, anywhere from ADD to bipolar, depression, anxiety, autism. So anything like that. So we're also just covering it on that aspect as well.
Very cool. And you know, I do want to say, yes, they have a very cool podcast. We've talked about that on the show actually. But also, Myles, I want to say to you, as a fellow, as if we're on the same level, as an also stand-up comedian, the fact that you don't just go, shh, oh, it's too bad you suck. Like, it's really cool that you actually want to help people out, because being the stand-up comedian is like one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. But like so rewarding. Like
it is. Anyway. It is, but it's a team. Like, I mean, it's not, I can't stand when entertainers or comics get in this us versus them mentality. It's like we should all be helping each other out. There's enough work for everybody. There's enough pie for everyone. So like, yeah, whenever I see somebody that's not when you bomb on behalf of stand-up comedy. Like, you are a representation. Every show could be somebody's first show and their last show. It is within all of our best interests that every show we are on is as fire as humanly possible. And if one of the tires on this train is flat, guess what? You better go in the back and change that sucker. Go back to the drawing board, figure it out. You can't come in here and be unfunny or adversarial or piss off an audience. Like, somebody will go and they will tell all of their friends the awful time they had at a comedy show because it wasn't what they saw on Netflix, because it wasn't what they saw on YouTube. And they had this romanticization of what comedy is in their head. And then they watched you and 3 of your bringer friends bomb their dicks off. And now they hate comedy. So it's like, yeah, man, like, if you see somebody bomb, we all need to get together. When can we do a group writing session so that way that doesn't happen again? You shouldn't just be so casually putting down somebody else bombing. It's just like, nah, man, we want the show to be good. These people came to have a good time. They gave us our money. They gave us their time. They gave us their attention, and they deserve the best time possible.
Yeah. And also I'm putting bomb my dick off in my repertoire. I'm going to start saying that from now on.
You'll find it again. You always find it again.
I love that. I'm going to say that anytime that happens. And it will, because we all bomb. So Holly, tell me, like, what made you want to do this?
Yeah, the coaching really came when I was teaching dancers, and I realized I was less interested in their technique, right? Like, I was working and choreographing on dancers and I was watching them, and I was less interested with that. And I was more interested in this magical thing that happened when they kind of let go, or they synced up, or something opened in them. And all of a sudden, like, you really saw them. And it was like a light was in the room, and you would like really see them, like their spirit moving through them. Sorry, this is getting I can go very woo woo.
No, they were in flow, right? Flow.
Yeah, like
flow.
being in the flow.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found that I just started naturally like coaching them towards that, and like coaxing them and being like, okay, try it this way. Okay, try it again. Okay, louder, faster, and I would get, especially like in my 30s, I was like crazy in my classes. I would yell at people like in an encouraging way, go, but I just loved that. It was almost like a shamanic thing that would happen when you're pulling somebody towards themselves and towards like that higher creative part of themselves. So anyway, I just got really hooked on that, and I just loved watching people do that. And even now, like when I see comedians or anybody, it's like I'm listening for something to come forward. You know what I mean? And I think I've just always been wired that way. Like when I would watch shows, I'd be like, this isn't working. Why? Not like in a necessarily like judgmental way, but just like, why isn't this working? I think like Myles, it sounds like you kind of geek out on that too. Like,
yes.
Why isn't this working? Like, how can we make this work?
Yeah.
And so I just, that and I love helping people, and I just feel like it feels when you come to this calling. I was telling Myles when he told me he had a coaching business, I was like, oh, you've gotten the call. It just feels like wow, like I can do this myself. Like I can get on stage and like bring a powerful energy, and I can also help other people do that. And then the power of that, like the power of the power of us seeing someone overcome their fear helps everyone overcome their fear that watches it without even knowing. So it's just transcendent. To me, performing it's on another level. It's a spiritual almost thing. I don't get to talk about it a lot, but that's it for me.
It is. Well, I'm glad you brought up flow. Like, because they've done studies on athletes and their brains, and they get into a meditative state when they're in flow. They're high functioning, but everything on a cognitive level fires at like this superhuman level when you get into that flow state. And the flow state is interesting because it's paradoxical. How do you release something to get it? How can I let go of these judgments, these fears, desires. I always think of like Craig Ferguson when he hosted his late night show. He used to always start the show and get ready for his monologue and everything. And he would have his little blue card and he'd get ready to go and he'd just rip it up and throw it up and he'd just sit back. Cause it's just, that's kind of what it is. I mean, you set your plan, you get your set list or whatever it is that you're doing with entertainment. You know the moves if you're a dancer, like you know where your lines are and everything. Once you have that downloaded and it's showtime, you've got to let go. You have to get out of your head. You have to just let the set happen and let those moves happen the way they need to happen. And that is the flow. The more you think about it, the more you overanalyze it and you get in your head, it's not going to work. If you stay in your head as an entertainer or a performer, oh, the whole show suffers. Everything suffers. You have to try and find any way. And once you get in that flow state, it's like a drug. That feeling of like, oh, it just turns on. Here we go. It gets to a point where you're just like, all right, I'm on, let's go. Here we go. Flow. So yeah, being able to attain that flow and work your way back into flow once you've gotten out of it, super important, super cool.
Well, and it's an interesting thing because I used to dance in a company and dancing is my favorite thing and I'll still do it for fun, but it's the only thing I've ever done where I don't think. Like I used to fight and even that I'd have like, you'd have to think and there's all these other things where you'd have to think, and dance was the only thing that I could do that I'm like, I don't care. I don't think about anything else. I don't think about anybody looking at me. And it's interesting because I've talked to comics and especially like being with Chelsea and Myles so much where I'll see them on stage and they just have that flow and they'll get off stage and be like, I don't even remember what just happened.
Yeah.
They were just like, they didn't think about a thing that happened and they were just in it. And it's an amazing thing to watch.
I've had it with acting before because I've done a few things, and it's interesting because it's like I think of it as it's like your drive home from work. You know, you do the same drive all the time, and you get home and you're like, oh shit, how did I get home? You know, you don't even remember driving because it's just this thing that happens. And when that happens on stage or whatever you're doing, movie, whatever you're doing, it's really cool. When you're like, what the fuck just happened? That was awesome, you know? And, but yeah, it's that weird thing where you just kind of, you know, like you said, Myles, you know enough, you just kind of let the instinct take over. And now you get off stage and you're like, I don't even remember that. That was amazing. What happened? You know, you're home. It's just so crazy. I want to ask Myles, so tell me, did somebody help you? Did you have this experience with somebody else?
I mean, I didn't have any one person who was super hands-on with me. I had a lot of people who gave me a piece of the puzzle. And they're like, here you go, kid, go. And so like I said, I pissed away my 20s doing stand-up. While all my friends were at keg parties, getting wasted and doing all their stuff in college, I was in the car with comics who were in their 40s and 50s for like 10 hours one way, and we're just talking shop. So, I mean, I just kind of picked the brains of every comic I was around. I had a home club, you know, in Fairfield, Pepper Bellies, may it rest in peace. And I would go there every weekend. You know, my first few years in comedy, I was there every weekend. I would talk to the headliner. I would spend the weekend there. I would help seat people if I could. Whatever I could do to help out that club to try and get stage time come Sunday night, I would do. And then I would make a point to try and get that guest set in, get feedback from the headliners, and then apply the lessons that I learned going forward. So I just kind of went on my own little scavenger hunt with comedy. I didn't really have any one person who was like, this is the way, this is how you do it. You know, I took certain seminars and certain classes and things like that and read a lot of books. There's a good handful of stand-up books that I read just to kind of get an idea of what I was doing. But I was just a student of the game for a long time. And I was 8 years old. You know, I used to have a stack of VHS tapes as tall as I was when I was a kid, when they all had Comedy Central half hours and all these George Carlin specials and Richard Pryor and all this stuff. And so, yeah, I was just married to the game since an early age. So I've just had this unhealthy obsession for a long time with stand-up. And I finally come into a place now where it is a healthy relationship and not an unhealthy obsession. And so being able to kind of like dial that down now and channel it into something that's good for everybody is a lot better than what I was doing back in the day. So yeah, it was kind of like, it's just the entertainment industry is just kind of the Wild West. There's not a lot of guidance. You can be, if you want to be a doctor, go to college, get your piece of paper. Now
Yeah.
you can practice. With entertainment, it's like, good luck.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll make it. Maybe you'll get lucky. Move to LA. I don't know why you're supposed to go there, but be there. Like, there's all this weird, half-hearted, like, yeah, go do that, you know? And I'm just like, okay, so we do have information that is helpful. We're just not sharing it all the time. That seems odd.
Exactly. Holly, did you have somebody that kind of like one person or maybe a group of people, or do you remember the first time somebody kind of helped you out, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I've studied somatic therapy at the life artwork from Tamalpa Institute. I became a certified hypnotherapist. I had a lot of great choreographers that were kind of coaches, and I didn't realize like that's what they were doing. And so then, I mean, I was in my 40s when I came to comedy, and I haven't had, yeah, no, it's just been like people along the way letting me know how this particular industry works, you know. But so I feel like I came armed to comedy with a lot of my knowledge of performance in general. And then it's been just about like, how do I crack this nut, right? Like how is this different? And how do I manage in this space? But yeah, like comedy really is the Wild West of, oh yeah, you're just supposed to spend, you know, you're supposed to go to like 20 mics in a week. And I didn't feel like I started getting good until I didn't do any open mics and I was just getting booked on shows. You know, I was like, oh my God, my material is funny. It's just I was doing it for like 20-year-old dudes that don't care about my cougar ass, you know?
That were looking at their phones.
So I feel like I feel like, yes, and now I'm going back to open mics to write more, but you know, so like don't listen to that. But I just mean like, you know, people will tell you one thing, but then I find like if I am more focused and like I try to go to every performance like rehearsed, and I'm actively working on things. Like I don't want to just waste my time, you know, like I think it's more important to do something intentionally than to do it a lot. And that's just my life philosophy. So I just try to make the most of it. I'm a mom, you know, I have stuff to do. I try to make the most of the time that I have.
Yeah, I like that though. You're trying to make it quality as opposed to just like, you know, and I know people, comedians that are like that are like, oh, I have this many books of jokes and blah. And I'm like, I hear you do the same set all the time. And, you know, it's just like, but they're not challenging themselves. You know what I mean? They're not challenging. Yeah.
Open mics are so you can get your chin under you, so you could take a licking and you could keep on ticking.
Yep.
That is what an open mic. If open mics are so you're a strong comic, not for you to be a good comic. There is a difference. If you want to be a strong comic, you go to the open mics, get your chin under you, so that way now it doesn't hurt as bad when you bomb. You don't take it as personally. But like she said, once you start doing the actual shows where there's an actual audience, now we're getting feedback. Now we know if these jokes actually have legs. Now we're growing as a comic and not just becoming a stronger individual to be able to take this beating we're suscepting ourselves to. So yeah, the open mics will only serve you so much for so long. Then it's time to level up, start trying to get into showcase rooms. Then from there, you can start trying to host, feature, headline, the whole nine. But yeah, open mics are so you can just get your chin under you. So that way this doesn't hurt anymore.
Yeah, I agree.
Myles made a good point about well, because I like Holly and Myles have both said, because they've been piggybacking on each other, even though they're talking about two different entertainment worlds. You know, like it's so similar, and I'm in both, and so it's very it's hard for me to be this quiet. So you're welcome. But uh what I wanted to say was just I teach stand-up comedy as classes, and I do it in like intensives, you know, for like 3, 5, 7-day intensives. I do that for like college classes. And I would go in with just all this stuff. Like, here's like, you can read these books. Here's kind of the joke writing, like bare bones, stuff like that. Let's just dive right in. These are the basics that you need. These different types of comedy. These are different ways of telling jokes, blah, 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 blah. And then I always finish it up with, you can take all of this information that I give you for this entire course, throw it in the garbage, and still succeed at stand-up comedy. So it's just, it's different, you know, it's different. And then in acting, you know, I've been on stage since I was 11 years old. I've been through every acting course you could think of, sketch, writing, improv, all of it. Like, I've done all of it in San Diego and New York and in LA. And I feel like I have an arsenal when it comes to acting, that I'm very, very confident in that. With stand-up, you're thrown on stage, it's you. There's no, you know, premeditated, you know, work on a character, work on a backstory, practice these lines that have been perfected. There's none of that. It's you. Go.
And you're also writing it too. So let's not forget, you wrote it.
Everything.
You rewrote it. You tagged it. You figured out where you're going to put it in your set.
Right.
And then you went on and you
don't know if it's going to work unless it's on stage in front of an audience. You don't know.
And you don't know. And you don't know what the audience is going to be like either.
Exactly.
So you got to ride that wave too.
It's the only job on the planet where you say, oh, I'm a stand-up comic. You are? Tell me a joke.
Yeah.
Now, go. No other job. It's like, I'm a dentist. Really? Clean them off. You know, it's like, that's not a thing.
Work for free right now.
The weirdest job on the planet.
Yeah,
it is a really weird job. And I'll tell you, my my best friend was, because the show's not there anymore, Beach Blanket Babylon. He was the props master. He not only ran the show, I know, I love it, Deneen. He not only ran the show, he made the props. And he went up to one of his, they knew me because I used to go to the Christmas parties and stuff. He went up to one of his actors and he was like, yeah, Eerie started doing stand-up. He's like, oh, I'd never do that. I would never. That's insane. That's suicide. Why would you do that? This is a guy that's on stage every night making people laugh. And he's just like, no, it's your life. It's your jokes. It's your heart out there. And you know right a fucking way if it's gonna work or not. And he's like, no, going out, that's just too scary. And
there's
like,
no other form of artistry where the feedback is so immediate.
Yeah.
Like, if you play a song, you've got till the end of the song to find out what they thought about the song. The joke, you're gonna know in a second. And on top of that, guess what? They didn't like the joke. You can't just walk off stage now.
No,
you don't get to just stop. That's my favorite, is when people who've never done comedy before try it for the first time, and they've got this big ego about how it's going to be this big thing. And then they get to 3 minutes out of their 7 minutes and they're like, I think I'm done. And I'm like, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
You do your time.
You do your time. You do your time. Yes. You stay up there. You do your time. I don't care. Well, I don't have anything else to say. Not my problem. You were supposed to do 7. You're going to do 7. You do not get a free pass right now. You're going to feel what we all feel, which is you cannot run.
Well, and what Chelsea...
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And what Chelsea was saying was like, there's no character buildup. It's like the character buildup is you. The backstory is on you, but sometimes you only have 5 minutes to show them why they have to give a shit.
Absolutely. And the worst part is when you do a joke and let's say it doesn't hit right, and then you got to still try to pull them back. That's my big thing, is like when I'm losing them and I'm like, I got to get them back. It's like this thing that just like, it's like, nah, we're not doing that. We're not ending it like that. No, you're getting back on my side. I want you to shake my hand when I get off stage. Like, no.
And that's the best feeling when you do get them back, right? It's like, I did it. You hated me and now you love me.
Thanks, motherfuckers. Thank you, audience, very much. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I had I did a show once at a sports bar, and it was when the
Always
Warrior.
the best venue.
Always the best venue for
Always
stand-up
the
comedy.
best
Sports
venue.
bar, super duper pristine. They always know how to run a good setup. You know, the
You
stage
always
is
have a
always big.
stage. You
Yeah, always
have
have a stage. You never just hold a
not-
mic in a dark corner of the bar
It's not
behind the
an amp
billiards
on a
table.
chair. It's never an
No.
amp on a chair.
It's
No.
always top quality at the sports bar. And they had the Warriors game on the TVs behind the bar, and the comedy show was like away from the bar. So the whole crowd had their back to the comedy show, and they were watching the game. And so I went, and comics are just doing their sets to silence and just dying miserable deaths, and everyone hates it. And so I went up to close the show out, and I asked the bartender, because there was like one of those pull down screens, and it was off. And I was like, does this work? Do you usually have this on when we're not ruining your game night? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, turn it on. And he's like, are you sure? I'm like, turn it on. And so he turned it on. The audience turned. I did commentary during the basketball game. I know nothing about basketball. So it was just like, black dude passes to the other black dude, passes to the mandatory white dude, score. Like, and so I just did commentary, and everybody was into it. And then in between during commercials, it was just me and this one dude talking shit to each other. And we did that for the whole game. And then the audience was like, yeah, this is fun. Like, we're enjoying this. Like, we're into it. And then the game ended. The Warriors won. And they were like, yay, now tell jokes. And I was like, nope, bye. And I got off stage.
Your chance. You
Missed your chance. I'm glad that you
Think
came
about
here
that.
not wanting to do comedy, and you left wanting comedy, and I will gladly not give you that. So yeah, it's a rewarding feeling when you have convinced an entire group of strangers to be on your side of whatever it is you're trying to get them on your side of. And it's a great feeling to be able to do it, and also a good feeling to be like, no, you can't have it.
And that was also the best, because the guy was like, they paid you, because it was right after you won the competition. It was like, they paid you money to do this?
The guy said he was, because I just won the San Francisco International Comedy Competition. It was after 2015. And the guy was like, man, how much they paid you to win that competition? And I told him, he's like, they paid you that much for some bullshit?
Oh my God.
And I was like,
that's
yes. Yes, they did. He was really funny. Like,
I once saw a headliner who was bombing and didn't even decide to, like, you know, when you're bombing and you kind of switch it up and then you can kind of get them back, you know. And he was bombing. He didn't even try to switch it up, and then he just left. He goes, thank you very much, and he left. And the fucking comedy, it was at an actual comedy club, the put him back on stage. He goes, oh, I gotta come back because like it looks like they're recording this, so I gotta come back. And he had to come back and do like 5 more minutes, and it was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever seen in my life. And then he sold merch after. He sold merch.
dear God.
Sorry, that was
Did he
just
sell any?
no. Everyone was like, oh, thanks, man. Like it was just
Dare to have the confidence of a comic who sells merch after a
Dude,
bomb.
how big was his dick that he was just like, I'll still sell merch. I'm still gonna sell some merch. Like it was.
I just want to say, in anything, at least try. So I respect all you guys. You try.
Oh,
All
Give
of
it a
us.
shot.
That's all we can do.
yeah.
Give it a shot. Leave it all out on the
Give it a
field.
shot. You never know.
Sure.
You never know. One last question I want to ask you guys before we leave, and this is like kind of a weird question. Did you ever quit? Holly, have you ever just quit
Comedy
entertaining?
or quit?
Just quit. Just been like, I don't want to act. I don't want to sing. I don't want to dance. I'm quitting. I'm out the door.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's kind of why I'm not a movie star. I mean, the only reason. No.
Oh, of course. Come on, don't be ridiculous.
Yeah, because it's so predictable. But yeah, I quit. I remember the pressure was high. I remember that day Steppenwolf Theater called me in Chicago and said, we want you to come in and audition. And I was like, I have a test though. I can't. I was in college, you know. And they were like, he was like, well, call us when you're ready to get serious about your career, and like hung up. And I just thought, yeah, I don't know about this. I'm scared. You know, I was just scared, and I didn't really have anybody in my corner, and I was doing too many drugs, and I had a bad boyfriend, you know, just 19-year-old shit.
Mhm.
and I quit.
Why are you
But the
laughing?
interesting thing is, then I immediately kind of started focusing on dance. You
Hmm.
know, so like anytime I think creativity finds a way, right? Like if you're a performer, if you're creative, and then I got an injury and now I'm a comic, it's like you could see that as like, oh, she's going all these different ways. And it's like, no, man, my high is like creativity. Like I gotta have it, you know? And even if I try to quit it, it doesn't quit me.
Yeah.
Like it won't leave me alone. So you know, yeah, I quit. But also I just got signed by a talent agent to do film and commercial again at 40 fucking 5. I got signed again. I haven't had an agent in 30 years.
Don't, don't.
That's awesome.
I started comedy at 45 with all these 20-year-old little fucking hoodie bearded asshole dick
Never
face
too late.
people.
Yeah.
And you know, and I've always wanted to do comedy, and I started and I stopped and I started again and I stopped, and then I just, this is the third time I started, and I just have just kept going, and I don't care. I don't care. I will be the little old lady with the walker. I will turn into the Pat. Never mind. I will turn it. I would be that little old lady. But Myles, have you ever quit? I mean, you feel like you stand up was like you were born with a mic in your hand or something.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I've romanticized the thought of like wishing I could quit. Like Chelsea and I have had the conversation on the road where we're like, don't you wish that just like being a Walmart greeter got you off? Like, don't you just wish that just like being a cashier was like your jam? You know, like it really scratched that itch, because it doesn't for us.
It doesn't.
And so I think I always say I'm probably going to have dates on the calendar when I die. Somebody's going to have to make a couple phone calls when I pass away. Be like, yeah, he's not coming. He died. I've always kind of understood that me and comedy are going to have a relationship in this lifetime, and that's my story. The things that I have quit in the entertainment industry though were to do with like the acting side of things, and that avenue, and auditioning and things like that. Things that, you know, when you're Mitch Hedberg talks about when you're a comic, you know, everybody wants you to do everything except for comedy. They're like, oh yeah, you're a comedian, great, can you write us something, write us a script, can you act, do this? And so I was trying to do, I moved to LA, me and Heather moved to LA, and tried to do, you know, everything that they say you're supposed to do that's supposed to quote unquote help get eyes on you for your stand up. You know, I mean, the idea is like, oh well, if I could be in a movie, more people will watch my stand up. If I could be on this TV show, more people will watch my stand up. And I just got sick of that process in that world. I hated the auditioning process. You know, it's just like, how is this even a workable way to cast things? Like, you just, these cattle call castings where it's like 100 of us packed in a tight room, and you're coming in and seeing people to talk for like 2 minutes, and they're like, okay, thank you. It's just like, is this really how you, even what project you're working on, are you connecting with the people that you're hiring for this project? Like, I don't know that it's going to come out as good as you think it's going to, because it doesn't seem like you're passionate about this. It just seems like you're kind of doing it to do it. So there's kind of always been that, guys. Like, I don't like the whole LA scene. Like, I really don't like I didn't like living there. I didn't like the people down there. I didn't like the process of like the whole quote unquote entertainment industry and what it is down there. I just couldn't stand it. And I had management that was just robbing me. Basically, they weren't helpful at all. The only audition they sent me on in a year of representing me was, they sent me on an audition where they were, and I quote, we need a Seth Rogen looking type. And my agent said, Myles, you need to go to this audition. And so I walked in, and who do you think the room was full of? Jufros, lots of scraggly facial hair, messy flannels, and then I pop in with my head looking the way it looks, and they're like, I'm like, yeah, guys, I don't know why I'm here either. This is stupid. I don't know why I'm doing this. This is dumb. And so, yeah, just that whole process of that world I'm like, no, this isn't good. Like, comedy's got its demons and its devils that you have to kind of wrestle with, and the powers that be, but there's a way to beat them in comedy. Like, the bosses in comedy are very beatable. You just got to know how to stand your ground and when not to take any shit. But with acting in that world, there's this weird energy of just like, I don't know that any of you are enjoying doing this. Like, if the money and the status isn't there, I don't see too many people who are just doing it for the sake of it. Like, if the status and the money wasn't there, would you still do this? Because if the status and the money wasn't still there, I'd still tell jokes. I'd still go up and do shows for people. I'd still want to help comics write bits that they could get to connect with audience members. But with acting and that type of stuff, I was just like, yeah, this isn't for me. Even when I was a kid, my dad tried to get me into modeling and acting when I was 4 and 5. And I had an M&M commercial lined up. And he was like on the phone with them. And he's like, they want you to do this M&M national commercial. Like, do you want to do it? And I was like, no, I think I quit. I think I just want to be like a normal kid.
You have quit.
Yes. Yeah. So I told him, I was
Finally,
like, yeah.
you answered my question.
Yeah. I was like, I don't want to do this. Yeah, I don't want to do this. And I think I'm done. And my dad was just like, but you could just do it. I'm like, I hear you loud. I understand. I get it. I just want to be a normal kid. And that was what I told him. I was like, I just want to be a normal kid. And my father has never let me live that down.
Wow.
Well, that was also one of the reasons Myles got the tattoos that he did, was so he couldn't get any parts for acting.
Oh, very nice.
I got all of these, so I'd be like, you can't cast me in anything. Like, because I'm sleeved up. Like, you can't possibly. And they still, like, I'll go out for certain auditions for things to be like, yeah, that'd probably be fun to do. I could do that. And they'll like put me in a long sleeve or something. That's fine. Okay, sure, whatever. But this is mainly so that way it kind of keeps me, tells the story of my life, but also keeps me from like going down an avenue that I already established early in life. There wasn't going to be anything fruitful at the end of that path for me.
Yeah, I do have to say, it must have looked like you were the guy that was there to beat up the Seth Rogen character, because you just look like such a jock to me.
Yes, they thought I was going to bully them.
Right, you're the bully. I know. I've seen your stand up. Thank you guys so much. I do usually. Deneen is sort of my unofficial co-host. Deneen, did you have a question for either of them? You're good. You're good. Okay.
I just want to say it was really interesting because I'm just like a fan of all this. I like to just be a regular schmoette and, you know, do my thing. But I mean, I love all this as just, you know, as a comedy member, I mean, a comedy audience member, or just a lover of all things artistic. So it was just kind of, like you said, even if it's you're not in the business, it was very eye-opening. So thank you guys all for sharing.
Cool.
Yes,
because I just figured you get into it and you're funny or you're not. And if you're funny, you make it. And if you're not, it's so much deeper than that.
Yeah, you also
so much deeper.
It's the writing, the performing, there's so much. The one thing that I do think is really interesting is people don't understand the mechanics of stand-up. And it's not that I'm so good at stand-up, but it's like I understand the mechanics of stand-up. And there's so much in there. There's so many layers to what you have to do. If you think, and this is why it drives me fucking crazy, it's kind of going off the side, but this is why it drives me crazy when people are like, well, people always say I'm funny. And I'm like, yeah, you can be funny at a party, but you know those people and they know you, and you can easily make your friends laugh. But if you're gonna go up in front of a bunch of people who don't know you, you better have very well-crafted jokes. You better know exactly what you're gonna say, how you're gonna say it, how fast you're gonna say it, and make sure that you're connecting with every person in the fucking room. As long as you can do all that and still be able to navigate the whole room, you're gonna do great. But it's way fucking harder than everybody thinks it is. And
it's a skill set for sure. Talent. I come from a funny family, but we all know we don't want to do that. We can be funny with friends. They tell me you should be up there. Oh no. It's a skill set, and I admire you guys. So
well, and even if you know the mechanics and your onstage presence is good, a lot of people don't have the good offstage presence. So that also goes a long way in your career too.
That's
true. Good point, Heather.
That's really true.
There's so many comics I know who on stage are wonderful, but off stage I wouldn't recommend them as far as I could throw them.
Or even talk to them. Yeah. It's bad.
Yeah.
It's bad. Thank you guys so much for being on the show. Thank you. I want to say thank you to, we're just going to go through the whole room. Heather Weber, thank you for joining in and giving us, you know, your insight on writing. And of course, Myles Weber, I love you. You're amazing. You're both amazing. Chelsea, thank you for joining in. And of course, Holly Shaw, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
I hope to run into you more. And Deneen, thank you so much for being on the show. I really
You have great shows. I like them. They're really good. You ask good questions and you have interesting subject matter. Keep up.
I appreciate that.
I support you.
Oh, thank you. I'm Eerie Diamond, and this has been another Terrible Podcast by Comics. Thank you guys so much. Have a great night. Bye, guys. Bye.